My holdout lasting only a week. I've agreed to terms on a nice long-term deal. Thank you, Alex Brasky, for stepping in last week. He mentioned that I was pulling a James Cook and not sticking around. But here we are again, Andy. I'm back. James Cook is not. Welcome to the Buffalo End Zone podcast. Kevin Carroll, Andy Young.
Look, I'm wearing a tropical type shirt.
It's warm out.
It's like 85 degrees out. The Bills Media Golf Tournament is on the horizon. My vacation and my holdout is soon to come. Will I be back for training camp? That's the big question.
That is the big question. Will there be a podcast while you're gone during the month of July? That's another big question.
Hey, everybody's got to take a break sometime.
2 rounds of organized team activities for the Bills this year, Andy, and they are in the books right now. We had week 2 getting underway earlier this week. That's a wrap now. Josh Allen not there. Huge concern, right?
Are you surprised?
I am not, but I will tell you this. After his wedding over the weekend, my wife and I even talked about it. She was like, there's no way Josh Allen is going to be there for practice during the week. And I said, I don't know. If I was him, I'd come back for OTAs and minicamp and then just take like a 3-week honeymoon. They've got the money, Andy.
Yeah.
But they could probably just do that anyways. He'll come back 3 days next week and then, maybe enjoy this week with Hailee Steinfeld.
You got her name right.
Not Seinfeld. I heard Larry David was at the wedding.
The king and queen of Buffalo. Josh and Hailee.
Yep.
Congratulations.
So congratulations to them. Smart move. I'd say get married, take a week, come back for mandatory minicamp, and then take a bigger honeymoon.
Look, Josh Allen, the MVP, I think he's earned the right to skip out on some voluntary practices. I don't think it's a big deal. I think it was even notable that he was there last week leading into the wedding.
Yeah.
And then flew out, went to Southern California, got married. I think I saw some pictures, Dawson Knox, Spencer Brown, Mitch Trubisky.
They were at minicamp too, or
OTAs.
OTAs.
Yeah, and so that dovetails into what I wanted to talk about a little bit regarding OTAs was it's just different when Josh isn't there. It's a week, it's voluntary practices, but the offense just operates at a different level when he's not there, as to be expected. He might be the best player in football.
Mm-hmm.
So for him not to be there and expect things to go exactly like they normally do, you can't have that. The offense, the quarterback's a little slower to get rid of the ball. Timing's not the same. The energy's not quite the same. But it's good for them to go get reps. Everybody moves up a slot. Trubisky gets the first team reps. Mike White gets more reps. Shane Buechele gets more reps. And they can work with different guys. So, to me, that's a good thing, especially at this time of year. Let those guys get some run.
The only people I feel bad for, and this is a little inside of what we did when we went to practice earlier in the week, was there appeared to be some MVP people there that got the day to sit there and watch practice, something not a lot of people get to do. I would assume some of them were disappointed Josh Allen wasn't there. You get the news that you get to go watch a practice during organized team activities, and the guy you want to go see isn't there. But, that it is what it is.
Maybe they were there to see James Cook.
Well, he wasn't there either, Andy. And he didn't get married as far as I know over the weekend. He's still in the position wanting more money, wanting a better deal. But mandatory minicamp is just around the corner. That's when more eyes will be focused. This has all been voluntary. We'll be focused on, will James Cook show up? And Joe Brady said he loves James Cook. But if he's not there, now's the time for other guys to get some reps in.
Not surprising at all that James Cook is not, again, at voluntary OTAs for the second straight week. He only has so much leverage, right? Mm-hmm. Withholding service is one of those key points to give yourself leverage. I try to do it all the time here. It doesn't work, though.
Doesn't work.
So I just go to work, put my head down. But in any case, it becomes more of a story, I think, if we get to mandatory minicamp and he's still not there, because then he's eating some fines. Okay, that's 2 or 3 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, not a huge deal. Then do we get to training camp? That's where it becomes more of an issue. where is this going to eat into become a distraction?
Right.
Does it become when is he going to show up? Is he holding in? Is he standing on the sidelines but not participating? Is he there at all? Or does he just come to some sort of agreement with himself or the team?
Right.
Hey, I'm going to go out there and play. Or do they get a deal done? Who knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not expecting that, but it's not a huge story to me right now. It's a discussion point. Fans want to know about that. Is James Cook there, right? Where's his head at? We'll see a little bit more of that next week with mandatory minicamp, and then the real test is training camp. And if that bleeds into the preseason, and then, God forbid the regular season, and there's some issue there, then he pulls like a Le'Veon Bell and doesn't play. I don't expect it to get to that point, but stranger things have happened.
I don't either, Andy, but as we've seen during training camps before, anything can, like, you could be there one day knowing what you're going to do, going about your work, and all of a sudden James Cook does have a new deal.
Mm-hmm.
Or suddenly
he's not there and he shows up.
Yeah. So you never know what's going to happen. And I, quite frankly, I mean, it's not for me, but if he doesn't show up for mandatory minicamp, I don't think that's such a huge deal.
It's a talking point, but it's not super detrimental to the team.
Right.
You brought up Joe Brady. He said, yeah, we love James, Jimbo, as they affectionately call him. But, hey, this is a great opportunity for other guys to get some shine. Ray Davis gets more reps in the event that James Cook gets hurt or doesn't play for whatever reason this season.
Ty Johnson.
You're going to see a lot of Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. It gives Darrington Evans and Frank Gore more runs. So it's not a bad thing. Again, similar to the quarterbacks with Josh Allen missing time this week. Just gives these guys more reps as they go through their 2 or 3 days of practice this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting now moving into the next phase of this because now we've gone through rookie minicamp. First round of OTAs, I was not there. You were there. Then round 2. My mind is used to 3 rounds of OTAs, but I don't know if I missed something.
They cut it short this year because the season actually starts almost more than a week earlier than it normally does. So I think Sean McDermott, to give his guys the full time, that long rest period, the way the calendar fell between the draft, rookie minicamp, and then the break leading into training camp, which I expect to be the week of Monday, June 21st, somewhere in there. That's usually is like more like the 28th of July, not June, July.
Yeah.
So I think McDermott decided, look, let's cut 1 week out of OTAs, get to minicamp, and then give these guys the full, roughly 4 or 5 weeks off.
Yeah. So I was out there. I was on offensive duty. You were over with the defense. You got a feature story coming up. We'll get into that a little bit later on. I, quite frankly, started wanting to zoom in on Dawson Knox to see if he was sweating it out after partying all weekend with Josh Allen. But him and Dalton Kincaid look good out there. It's been a while since seeing them both out there. We know Kincaid, with a lot of pressure from McDermott and Brandon Beane, that he needs to step up this year. I think he looks like he's in the right place. It's early, Andy. I'm not going to say he was doing anything spectacular, but the two of them seem to be in a really good spot together. So I started off watching the tight ends, again, to see if there was any hangover going on, but really to see where those guys stood, because, Andy, the season ends with Dalton Kincaid not coming up with a football. And that's going to be a lot on any player, especially a young player, going into his 3rd year now, that you got to move on from it, which I think these pro athletes really do.
And the team, almost uncharacteristically from Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, put some public pressure on him and Keon Coleman as well. We'll get into him momentarily. Same deal. Like, you've got to perform better. You've got to get bigger, stronger. Kincaid dealt with a rash of injuries. Right. I think he revealed to some reporters last week, Matt Perino, our good buddy from NewYorkUpstate.com and the Shout Buffalo podcast, said he talked with Kincaid, who said he was dealing with multiple knee injuries to both knees, right? So that's a lot to deal with. Mm-hmm. And just the expectations of coming off a decent but not spectacular first year and getting on the right page with Josh Allen. Those two just seem to not connect the way they seemed to the first year.
Right.
A lot of targets were off. Kincaid not pulling the ball in, Josh missing him. There just wasn't that connection that they need to have. And a lot rides on him improving in this offense.
And I had Kincaid taking a huge jump at the start of last season.
We all did.
But one of my bold predictions when we were with Stevie Johnson getting ready for camp or after camp was that he'd be close to 1,000 yards receiving at the end of the year. Now, that's bold, Andy. Don't get me wrong.
Especially for a tight end.
Yeah. Bold prediction, but obviously not even close. But again, I still think the talent's there, and the possibility of what they can do with him in this offense under Joe Brady is still exciting as you get ready for the upcoming season.
My issue with the offense is they have so many guys who all fill similar roles, whose best spots are doing similar type things. Like, you can talk about everybody eats. If you want to take another step, which is hard to do when you scored the highest points per game.
Can everyone
total
play
points.
in the slot?
Right. They're all slot receivers. They're all interior type players. Joe Brady made a point to say, I don't believe in inside and outside, and I think a lot of that has to do with formation, with motion, bunch, tight formations, different things where they're not relied upon to be boundary, outside. I'm just going to beat my guy one-on-one every time down the field. Now, I think there's value in that.
I think
too. Teams that have that are in a good place, typically.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a guy that can do that, we'll see what happens with Elijah Moore and Joshua Palmer. Can Keon Coleman take a step to get there? I liked what I saw to Keon Coleman in OTAs.
When I first walked out to cover OTAs the other day, the first thing I saw was Keon Coleman dropping a ball that hit him right in the hands.
Are you talking about the deep one from Trubisky?
It was probably that one, yeah.
So it was fun to watch this matchup during OTAs. Keon Coleman against Max Hairston, the rookie. And We'll get into Hairston more too. But Coleman beat him a couple of different times. One of them was a deep ball down the field, gets past the 4.28 40 guy.
That's right.
And Trubisky drops a ball right in the bucket over his shoulder, and it went right through his arms. I don't think he ever even touched the ball. And he was pretty upset with himself about that.
Mm-hmm.
But he also had a couple of other plays where it seemed like he beat his receiver or his defender and got open and made the catch. Joe Brady made a point to say his route running has really improved, his separation skills in terms of the get-off at the line of scrimmage, the initial move. I don't know if his speed is ever going to get him huge separation, but if he can beat a guy off the jump, that's huge just to make that move and use your big body to make plays. So for him to get stronger, maybe a little bit faster, a little bit bigger, and just really lock in on the game he needs, that could be a big improvement for the Bills as you look to see how this offense evolves, as good as it's been.
That was noticeable even against air with how his body worked to me.
Mm-hmm.
He just, obviously, he's now been in the NFL. He's going on year 2. And I can't remember which coach talked about it, but in talking about these guys going into their second year, you talk about all the pressure. You just played your college season. You go to the combine to get ready to get drafted. You get drafted, rookie minicamp. Then all of a sudden you're an NFL player. That's a lot of stuff to happen to you in a short period of time. But it does look like Keon's been working out. It does look like he's been working on a lot of this stuff. I saw some online video on X or something like that of him working on his route running, not at practice, but on his own. And he just looks more fluid, looks more powerful.
Look, people's expectations for him have decreased. So from the fan base perspective, I think a lot of people are saying, he is what he is. He's not a great separator, all those things. But if he can improve and live above those expectations, that's a boon for the Bills because they still are looking for those guys, right? They still are. I mean, I don't know that he's ever going to be the alpha dog, but what if he does?
Can I tell you this?
Yes. Tell it.
So they're doing a drill where the wide receiver runs up to another wide receiver holding a pad. Wide receiver with the pad bumps them, and then they run their route. I can't remember who it was, but someone was doing it wrong, and Keon said, I'll show you how to do it. So second-year player takes the pad, and now it lets the whole line go through him while he shows the younger guys or the other guys how the drill's supposed to go. Yeah, it's just some guy holding a pad knocking, but it's like his head's there in the game like, listen, I know how this drill goes. I know what you're doing wrong, even though it's on the wrong side. It's not route running. It's not anything. But to me, it seemed like a veteran would step in and do that.
Yeah, I mean, if he can take that role, I mean, Josh Allen said it, that he worked really hard and wants to be better. It's not a guy who's complacent, who's, I've arrived. And Joe Brady said it as well. Like, this is a guy who was a basketball player.
I know. I forgot about that.
Who's growing into being a football player. I think he played football most of the way through.
Right.
But he was doing both, right? Mm-hmm. That's not easy to do. You play Division I football and basketball.
Right.
It's a rare breed.
Mm-hmm.
So room to grow there for him. That's going to be one of the talking points all through camp and all through the season. Is he living up to the increased expectations of himself and the team?
Yeah. So you don't get much. So, the only thing you get with the O-line that's still intact is they're just pushing each other around. There's nothing interesting you're going to see there until they're at St. John Fisher for camp. Even like the tight ends and stuff like that on offense that I was covering, it's practice. I've said this before. I'll say it
pads.
Again. Football practice literally is the same from Pop Warner into high school, into college, into the NFL. If you played football at any level, you know the order of the drills, you know exactly what's coming next. If you're out there all the time, it's a bit monotonous. But it is what it is, and they have to do this to start getting better in gearing up for the upcoming season. I'm interested in mandatory minicamp and then taking the next steps and maybe getting a closer look, Andy, at the defense. I know you were over there for rookie minicamp.
I've done mostly defense.
And Max Hairston has looked apart as a rookie, and now he's getting some help with Tre White coming in and Dane Jackson coming in, who Tre White, I don't think I've heard from Tre White in forever. Like, I think at camp a few years back, he never really talked.
Yeah.
He never did anything, but he went to the podium and he talked about now his dual role as someone fighting to be opposite Christian Benford on opening day as the other starting cornerback, to being there like others were for him with Max Hairston.
He remembers what it's like, Tre White, to be a first-round pick, to be a guy who comes in with expectations, who might be pressed into a starter's role early in his career. And we saw how that went with Kaiir Elam. Didn't work so well. Did work out pretty well for Tre, who a couple years later became an All-Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And to have a guy like Tre who is still fighting for a spot in the league, he's gone through the injuries, right? He's gone through being released by the team that drafted him, bouncing around last season, went to the Rams, went to the Ravens, and then coming back to that same team and understanding and appreciating the team aspect of it and the idea that, yeah, I want this starting job opposite Christian Benford, and I'm fighting with Dane Jackson, who I've been a teammate with before, who's also in a similar role to Tre White, but also mentoring Max Hairston, because they're all about team. If Max Hairston, through their help, beats them out, great. The Bills still have a lot of depth. They have a guy who can teach Max Hairston and Tre White and Dane Jackson as well, and players who might be relied upon. I don't know what Tre has left in the tank. I've watched him. He looks pretty spry out there. I don't know that he'll ever regain the speed that he once had. Just when you come off ACL and Achilles injuries, that's natural at 30 years old.
Yeah, we all know that mentally after that ACL, he was having a hard time, as I recall. A really hard time.
He said he was in a dark place.
Yeah. And now that he's back with the team, it's good to hear him talk about being a teammate like Kyle Williams was, like Lorenzo Alexander, these veterans who were there at a different point in their career, who were still producing, but acknowledged the fact that they're in a different space right now where if you want this team to get to the ultimate prize, you have to mentally be there as well and be there to help the one that's, nipping on your heels or the up-and-comer.
And you missed the conversation last week I had with Alex Brasky at OTAs coming out of that on this podcast. They're not publicly putting any sort of pressure on Max Hairston. I asked McDermott last week directly, just a general question about Hairston. Hey, Sean, what have you noticed about Max Hairston in the month or so you've had him in the building since he was drafted? He answered nothing about Max Hairston other than to generally talk about rookies and what they face.
That sounds about right.
So they're not saying, oh, man, look at his athleticism, or look at how quick he is, or he's really picking up the speed. Now, Bobby Babich, to his credit, did answer a little more and say, look, we know about Max Hairston's speed, but there's a difference between running a 40 and playing fast.
Mm-hmm.
And he's starting to play fast, but that's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Understanding the system, the responsibilities, where's your help? When can you cheat routes? When do you need to back off and just make the play in front of you? So you're going to see more and more in that. And to have Tre White and Dane Jackson there, along with Benford and Taron Johnson in that group as well, guys who've been there and done that to guide him along the way, is great. Could I see a scenario where Tre White starts the season? Absolutely. Could also see a scenario where they rotate. They get a couple series on, couple series off, right, and see how it goes. They did that with Kyrie Elam early. Or maybe Max Hairston knocks their socks off during training camp and he wins the job.
Right.
I think ultimately that would be the best thing for them. But to have Tre there as a relied-upon backup or being able to fill in that role if need be is a good spot for them to be.
And Dane Jackson back, not quite Tre White coming back, but Dane familiar with the system.
Started a lot of games for the Bills.
Started a lot of games. Had a tough go at it with a really bad team. I think the Carolina Panthers last season. He's happy to be back. The thing that's hard to get used to Dane Jackson is he's wearing the number 23. And I don't know if you were around for this. I was, but
You think it's Micah Hyde?
There was a long discussion about how he got the number 23.
Okay.
And that was his number in Carolina. He did talk to Micah Hyde, which I think is like, you don't have to.
It's not retired.
Right.
It might be one day.
He wanted the number, but he did talk to Micah Hyde, which I thought was funny because it was like a regular serious interview, and then it really lightened up a little bit just talking about the number 23.
Hey, that's respect. 23. It's the GOAT number.
Well, he said, in meetings when he's sitting there in his number 23, a lot of the other players don't think it looks right.
No. I mean, Micah Hyde, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, my brother, Aaron Young in high school.
Oh, nice. Trying to think of any other 20. I don't have one.
Sam Reinhart, didn't he wear 23 with the Sabres?
Oh, maybe. I'm stuck with him at number 13.
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong.
But you're right. It was 23. But, yeah, so good to have Dane Jackson back, too. The cornerback room, that was such a big question at the end of the season, now seems very comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough place because it's a rookie, right? You don't know what to expect from them. And then you've got older veterans who probably aren't in the prime of their careers. So it's not like you've got an absolute set piece, but I think you have options with the idea that Max Hairston grows into that spot.
Absolutely. Lot of new faces on the defensive line.
Yeah.
You caught up with Landon Jackson, correct?
I did. And I've been focusing on the defensive line because I'm working on a feature on Landon Jackson and the road that he's had through his life as he's dealt with alopecia, which is an autoimmune condition that causes baldness, hair loss. And he's had that since he was a kid. It first started around 4 years old, and that's tough to go through as a kid. And when you're 5, 6, 7, and kids might not know what's going on, and you're making fun of a kid because he has no hair or a bald patch or you lose your eyebrows. And a lot of people go through alopecia. He mentioned that he looked up to former NBA player, UConn standout Charlie Villanueva. He also looked up to Ryan Shazier, former Ohio State and NFL player.
Is Josh Dobbs
he may deal with it as well.
I think there was some quarterback who played for the Browns. I want to say it's Josh Dobbs, but I might be wrong.
Yeah. So just thinking about what he's dealt with, and then he's become an advocate to helping other kids, not only with alopecia, but just in general, deal with mental health, with depression, with bullying. He's done work with organizations to help that cause. And eventually, he said, I've got to get through this rookie year. It's a lot on my plate, but I want to start a foundation and have my wife at the forefront of that with me as well to help kids in those situations dealing with anything like that. And so he's happy to have this platform now and was happy to talk with me about it. And it's not something he shies away from. And here's the other part, man. He looks like a dog. Like he looks like an NFL defensive end. 6'6", 270, 80 pounds, whatever he is. And I've gotten to watch these rookie defensive linemen with TJ Sanders and Deion Walker, who's a massive human being. They look like they could be impact players. Again, no pads.
Right.
They're doing circles around cones and different things. They're not hitting, but, to add those guys, those rookies, the way they've retooled this defensive line, those three guys are going to be counted upon eventually to have a big impact on this team. And it could be sooner than later, given that Joey Bosa's banged up already, given that Larry Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt are both suspended for the first 6 games.
Yeah. I mean, you forget about that at points this time, but it pops up in the back of your head that they're going to be shorthanded the first 6 games.
Yeah. So that defensive line is going to be a work in progress, and it's interesting how they're going to bring that all together. Look, the good part for them is they have Greg Rousseau, they have A.J. Epinesa, Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, guys who've started and played a lot of games for this team.
Yep.
But to maximize what they do, those are the same guys that have started and played a lot of games for this team, and in the playoffs typically have not come up big in elimination scenarios. So you want your Bosas and your Ogunjobis and these rookies and these Hoyts to be able to get this team over the hump. Long time to go here. Bosa could be fine by training camp and be a mood issue, but you're going to see these rookies on the field.
Go away for a week, and I hear all this stuff about Bosa when I return, but I'm with you. I mean, it's June, so we can see how it all plays out. Again, mandatory minicamp coming up, Andy, next week. Bills media golf outing coming up this week. I still don't know who I'm paired with. Some pairings are out there, but it's always fun. It's always a good time. The Bills do such a great job.
Yeah.
And
it's an opportunity, too, for a little networking.
Right.
Sometimes you get to play with a player or a member of the staff. Brandon Beane usually plays. Sean McDermott has played in the past. So for media members to have a relaxing day, to meet these guys, chat with them, and
get to know how you really are.
Yeah, and there's a comfortability factor then when you go to ask somebody a question. You're not some stranger, right? So that there's goodwill there, I think. You don't become like friends with these guys, but you just know them on a human level a little bit.
Don't ask for the number after. Hey, let's go hang out. We'll get some wings over at Bar Bill.
I can't say that's never happened. But it's a good time. And thanks to Kevin Kearns with Bills PR, who does a fantastic job really spearheading that and putting it together. We appreciate it every year.
Always look forward to that. Did you and Alex talk about Stephon Diggs at all and what was going on with him?
He had brought it up briefly when we were talking about James Cook.
Yeah.
But, whoa, woof.
I mean, I don't know, nor do I care. Like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh my, and then I'm like, you know what? I don't care.
Yeah.
I think we're all kind of getting to that point where you see so much stuff through social media all the time that you start to become numb to it.
It's just, to me, I don't care. Do what you want your off time. It's do the Patriots care.
Right.
How does it look? And it seems like they're fine. They probably had some internal discussions.
Mm-hmm.
There was talk, would they release him?
Right.
That didn't happen. He was at OTAs.
They kind of need him.
Right. So, I mean, it is what it is, right? He's doing his thing. Like we found out in Buffalo, like he's on it. He's on Steph's time. He's right. So he's doing his own thing, and he's got his own way of handling things, and it is what it is, right? And it's It's whether the Patriots feel like it's just a bad enough look to say we can't deal with this. I don't think it's at that point. He's still banged up, too. I don't think he's cleared to fully practice yet.
One has to wonder if Belichick was still there, if he'd still be on the team. But
I don't know,
think
dude.
Mike Vrabel's
Belichick's got his own nonsense going on, too. I don't know, man.
I forgot about that, too. Andy, what you watching? I got a new one, and I don't know if it's new. And I don't know how much you know about it, since usually I bring something up and you say, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
Probably.
The series on Netflix, Sirens.
Don't know anything about it.
I knew you were going to say that. Here's what I've only watched a few episodes, but it's basically a girl from Buffalo
Okay.
goes to find her sister on Nantucket. And so they're like, not made of money in Buffalo, goes to Nantucket.
There once was a man from Nantucket.
See? Can you finish the rest of it?
Nope.
Finds her sister. She's part of the whole elite Nantucket lifestyle out there. Gets sucked into it a little bit. But there are so many references to the Bills and Bills Mafia, and even a scene like where someone says they like the Miami Dolphins, and they're like, but we can both agree Patrick Mahomes sucks. So there's a lot of that tied in there. I'm still trying to get a grasp on if it's just a glorified soap opera at the end of the day.
Well, it's got to be.
Kevin Bacon's in it.
Okay.
And the redhead woman, who I can never remember her name, but
That's not narrowing it down.
no, I'm going to look
This
it up.
sounds like it's in your wheelhouse. Like you've lived in Western New York for 20 plus years, and you grew up outside of Boston.
And I've summered on Nantucket. No, I've never summered out there. But
you summered.
I've been to Nantucket.
You summer in New Hampshire instead.
Yeah, Hampton Beach, New Hampshire. Seabrook Beach, Andy.
Yes.
I
summer.
But it's just
Do you have any Grey Poupon?
Dude, you're out on Nantucket. You're eating lobster every night, all sorts of seafood. Andy.
I can't.
The Bills references are cool, like
Okay.
even clothing and stuff like that.
It's really cool to see all the pop culture stuff going on with the Bills. Like Josh Allen's all over ads, and obviously the face of the league, the Hallmark movie, right? Like all these things that are going on that Buffalo's cool. You know that sign, keep Buffalo a secret?
Not anymore, my friend.
Nah.
But keep it a little. I like the fact that you don't sit in traffic for 2 hours to go 15 miles.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, let's keep it like that.
I'm not watching anything. My kids monopolize my TV time.
I figured as much.
My son just watches a ton of WWE. He's obsessed with it.
You like that, though.
I don't mind that so much because I kind of am right there with him.
Yep.
So I'm sorry. I pour water on this segment every time.
It's fun because I get excited about it because I know you know nothing about
It actually makes a nice dynamic because I haven't seen anything.
Season 2 of Tires coming out, too, which is the comic Shane Gillis.
Yeah, I did start to watch that.
It takes some getting used to the dry comedy of it all.
It's kind of slow at first,
Yeah.
I feel like.
It's kind of like when you first watch The Office.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, I don't know, and then you get kind of comfortable with it.
I was expecting more of how he is in stand-up and his, like, podcasts and
Right.
YouTube appearances and things like that, where he's just raunchy and funny.
Right.
You know, it takes some time to get there.
Good friends with Gabe Davis, too.
Oh.
That was like we watched his stand-up, and then the next thing that popped up was his relationship with Gabe Davis. Like, Gabe did touchdown dances that Shane Gillis told him to do while he was with
Interesting.
the
And
Bills.
I heard he's visiting with the Steelers this
Yeah.
week. So they need some receiver help, too.
All right. We won't stay sidetracked too long. We'll wrap things up, Andy. Mandatory
Will we?
minicamp. Mandatory, you'll be there, or will you? I'll be there. Will James Cook be there? Will Josh Allen be there?
Will you, as a viewer and listener, comment, like, subscribe, leave us a review, tell us we stink? Just engage with us.
Yeah, please do that. And we'll be back next Thursday after Mandatory Minicamp wraps up. As always, everyone, thanks for joining us.